Hey everyone, Aaron Stewart, Data Access Golf. Good to have you here today on a Thursday where we've got the Travelers Championship up and going. I wanted to jump on real quick and look over sort of the scoreboard, but also I've been doing some kind of fun, I just got on this crazy little analysis based on a question that we got earlier this week. And so I started crunching some numbers and it became pretty interesting. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So let's get into it. Cool. Thank you. Welcome back. Hope you had a chance to watch that. Look like we've got Phil Mickelson -3 lining up a putt here for birdie on hole number 17. So he'll be wrapping up his round here pretty quickly. So yeah, I just kind of looking over the leaderboard, and based on our discussions that we had yesterday, is anybody shocked that Paul Casey, right, shot a 65? This should be his. He should hope that they play here every single tournament, right? Because, man, he is always up there at the top. And for whatever reason, Cromwell, Connecticut means good golf out of Paul Casey. We looked at it the show yesterday. The last 4 years, he's been right there looking to win this thing. So, but looking down through the scoreboard, not really a lot of folks that you would expect to see up at the top. You see Keegan Bradley there, put down a nice 65, but Patrick Cantley, who's been having a great year, obviously 66, and we'll talk more about him later over on the some of the data that we've pulled together. But Tommy Fleetwood, Louis Oosthuizen actually had a pretty good tournament last week. So anyway, those folks are in the mix. We'll be interested to see what when we switch sides, and those that go out in the morning, how they do, and see how this thing shakes out after tomorrow. But pretty good start for Paul Casey for sure, who, based on the numbers, seemed like the clear favorite. The way he's been playing, and also with the course. He loves this course. Looks like Jordan Spieth just threw 17 +3, so not so good for Jordan this week. But so yeah, what I wanted to talk about, I went through, and I know that in past we always talk about, on Mondays we always talk about the consistency numbers. And the consistency number essentially is how many tournaments a player has entered divided by the number of cuts they've made. And then we get kind of a percentage. And Tiger Woods is the only player, modern player, over the course of his career to average in the 90s. Okay, so he's up there at the top, and he's at 91%. And so one of the questions that came in recently was, you always look over the course of their career, but how does that compare to how things are looking now? And I thought, you know what, that's a cool question. And there's no real easy way to do that. So what I did was, I'll bring this, actually, let me see if I can do this. I'll go side camera, and then I'll go side screen. Does that work? No, it doesn't work. All right, so anyway, what you can see here is, this is a huge spreadsheet that I've put here, and I'll start. So what I started with, let me see if I can get there. So what I started with was I did a great big huge spreadsheet, and I put down everybody ranked from 0 to 50 in the FedEx Cup. So you've got, Matt Kuchar there at number 1, and all the way down to the bottom's Adam Long. Let's see if I can make this bigger, if that helps things. Probably doesn't, but anyway. So there's everything there. But you've got 1 through 50. And then I went ahead and put into these numbers. Maybe I can make it zoom in a little bit. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. If that helps see it. Well, maybe. Oh, I don't want to go too big. One more? Can I get one more out of it? Okay. Anyway, you'll see why I've done it this way. That probably works okay. Okay, so you've got Matt Kuchar here. And so what I basically did was I created a column with the 2019 events, how many they've played in, how many cuts they've made, and then came up with their yearly 2019 consistency numbers. and then went and did their career events and their career cuts, and then gave them like a career consistency number, and then actually did a little difference number here, if I can scroll it just a little bit, and then did the difference so we can kind of see how it's trending. Okay, so it's kind of a fun little project. Yeah, it took probably a little more time than I should have done, but some really cool stuff came out of it. So I wanted to jump into it. So I've gone and taken this data and I've sorted it two different ways. I've sorted it based on how they're trending. So essentially how they're doing this year compared to what they've done over the course of their career. And then I also sorted it based on how they're just doing this year, and just to see how their consistency numbers are going. Because a lot of you will remember, I'll bring this up here. If I bring up the main screen here, does that work? No. Let me see here. I'm going to add a new screen, and I am going to make the source of this screen up there, and we can change this thing to, excuse me, here, primary display. Does that work? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so here on this primary display, if you'll remember that we do this a consistency scale, and maybe I can make this one a little bit bigger so everybody can see it better. So this consistency scale, you can kind of hopefully see that is a little bit better, maybe. Yeah, does that work? Yeah, that seems to do it. Okay, so that you can definitely see that better if I put that back there, bring this to the top. And so, yeah, you can see that better. So essentially you've seen here that legends, I've broken the consistency scale down into these 5 categories. Legends, those that have made over 90% of their cuts and higher. The elite players, 80 to 89%. The solid players are 70 to 79%. And the good players are 60 to 69%. They're the ones that are barely close to keeping their card. And then you've got those that are 59 and below. And those are the ones that you should be really worried about them losing their card. This particular case, you've got Connors, Homa, and Kang. They've all won this year, right? So they don't have to necessarily worry about their jobs for at least a couple of years. But they're not, if they hadn't won, they would be probably losing their cards, right? So I wanted to take that. And so this is how I rank and look at players. So now we can take this consistency scale and we can apply it to all these numbers that I've put out there, and we can kind of get an idea of how people are playing. Are they playing in legend status, elite status, solid status, good status, and then compare that to how they're trending over the years. So let me take it back then to this side view right here. And I'm going to close this now. We don't need this anymore. Make this nice and small. There, okay. So we've got that there. Okay, so we've got this side view now that hopefully everybody can see. If I go then to the trending, here's some interesting numbers here. If it will go, there you go. Okay, so essentially everybody I've got everybody in here, and we're looking at, boy, it's the same thing. I'll zoom in real quick, see if that works a little bit. Oh, okay. It's lagging. It's lagging. We'll see how that goes. Okay, good. Gives it, hopefully it's a little bit better, but not great. So if we look here, the person out of the top 50, the person who is not living up to their consistency level for their career, the one in the top 50 again in FedEx Cup points is Phil Mickelson. So he is down 19% over what he's done over the course of his career, the average of his career. So Phil's having kind of a tough year, is essentially what we can say. He averaged over the course of his career 83%, and this year he is only making 64% of his cuts. Okay, he's missed 5 cuts and he's played in 14 events. Not a lot of events. I mean, we've got some folks that Sunjay M, he's played 26 events, right? He's in a lot of events. But I thought that was pretty interesting. And then I thought Adam Scott was playing really well this year. But if you compare his career numbers to what he's done this year, he's off 5%. So being below your career number is kind of a big deal. That's something that's been averaged over, right? I mean, Adam Scott's has entered 315 events, and he's made 259 cuts. Another person who's off quite a bit is Jim Furyk. He wasn't exactly sure if he was going to, play at all this year, and then he won, and it kind of changed his schedule for sure. But his consistency level's been 82% most of his career, and it's dropped down to 71%. So we can see some differences there. I guess you could say, what do they say? Father Time's undefeated. So maybe some of that going on for Jim Furyk. But some of the other ones here I wanted to throw in here. So you've got the most consistent, right? Jason Day, John Rahm, and Tony Finau in the top 50. They are basically right on their number, their cut number, like dead on. So based on their careers, they are playing essentially the same as what they've always played, which was interesting because I thought Jason Day had kind of slipped a little bit this year, but he seems to be playing just fine. And then John Rahm, I thought was a little off this year too, but he's right on his number as well. Jason Day makes 80% of his cuts. John Rahm is 87%. Maybe that's why I thought that Jason Day was a little more elite than that, but he's right on that number, 80%. And then Tony Finau, 78%. He's at 77%. So they're all very consistent and look really good. Rory McIlroy is actually playing 6% better this year than his career average. So he makes 87% of his cuts. So he's always been an elite player, but he's had a lot of top tens and he's worked his way up the field. He is making 93% of his cuts, 6% better than what he normally does. Some of the other big jumps this year, Paul Casey is playing 7% higher than his normal career best, and we saw that he played really well, obviously, today. Justin Thomas, who I actually thought was having a worse year, is based on cuts and his consistency number, he's actually having a better year by 7%. Brooks Koepka is up 9%. Now, he's one that didn't perform necessarily all that well when he first came out, but he's been killing it in the majors. And if you see his numbers, his performance numbers in majors versus when he's just playing an everyday PGA Tour event, they are definitely different for sure. He just has a way of ratcheting down for the playoffs. For the majors, that's truly incredible. So Brooks Koepka though is beating his career pace by 9% this year, making cuts. Pretty cool. Justin Rose, I thought he was having an off year, but he's making the cut 10% more. Unfortunately, he was the one that we chose for the Masters win, and he did make the cut there. But everywhere else, he seems to be playing quite well. I guess he took quite a bit of time off, tried a new strategy going into the Masters. It did not work well for him at all and messed up our data numbers for sure. Here's a surprise. Ricky Fowler. He's playing 13% higher as far as consistency goes than he has over the course of his career. He is making the cuts at 93%. He's only missed one cut all year. So really good play from Ricky Fowler. Again, I thought he was having a kind of an off year. We knew that Gary Woodland was playing better, but did you know he's playing 17% better than his career average as far as making cuts? So he's been making the cut at 94%. He made 94% of his cuts this year. He's played in 18 events. He's only missed one cut all year long. And his consistency number we looked at obviously Monday, but that video got pulled down because of that Amy Gary video I showed inside of it. So I've been banned. I'm trying to edit it out and put the video back up so you can take a look at his numbers, but they were super strong. Tommy Fleetwood, 17% higher than over the course of his career, and we haven't heard anything from him really. He's only played in 12 events because he is on the European Tour, but still, I was surprised by that. Dustin Johnson, he's had a good year, but did you know he's 18% better this year than he was as far as making cuts in previous years? That one floored me. He hasn't missed a cut all year. He's 100%. You've got Matt Kuchar. That's one that's obvious, right? He's won a couple times this year. He has only missed one cut, 94% level, and for his career, he's at 74%. So he fits right in that solid area, not an elite player, but this year he is playing to an elite level at 94%. And that's 21% higher than his career number. And then Graham McDowell obviously had a win this year. He's been non-existent for a few years. Got married, has a family, some business things going on. but he is 24% higher, right? His consistency number was at 70%. It's at 94% this year. And then in one who's made the biggest jump is Jason Kokrak, who I know he's been struggling recently, but he has not missed a cut. Of 17 events, he has not missed a cut. His career, he averaged 65% made cuts. But this year, he hasn't missed one at all. Now, he hasn't finishing strong, and his money numbers aren't huge. But as far as consistency and getting to the weekend, he hasn't missed all year long from 17 events. So that was kind of some cool information there. Now, if we just go and look how people are going, how everyone's doing this year, this is kind of, I've broken it up. You can see the colors there. So those that are considered in the Legends category with Tiger Woods just for 2019, Dustin Johnson, Hideki Matsuyama, who was a surprise. I didn't know that he was playing so well. But Jason Kokrak, as I mentioned, Tommy Fleetwood, Gary Woodland, Emiliano Grillo, Matt Kuchar, Graham McDowell, Rafa Cabrera Bello. You've got Ricky Fowler, Webb Simpson, Rory McIlroy, Brooks Koepka, Justin Rose, and Francisco Molinari. They are all right now holding that legend status for the year, making over 90% of their cuts. And then going into this elite level, you've got Tiger Woods at 89%. That's only 2 percentage points off his career number, but it is 2% lower. He's only missed one cut, but he's only played in 9 events. So that's what's causing that one. But you've got Brandt Snedeker up there at 89%. And then some of the ones that you would expect to see: Xander Schauffele, John Rahm, Justin Thomas, Adam Hadwin, Paul Casey, Patrick Cantlay, who's getting very close. I mean, he will push up probably, the way he's playing, he will probably push up into this elite level for his career, I think, this year. So that will be impressive, but he's holding on to that right now in 2019. And then you've got, and he is making, 80% of his cuts right now. And then down, which was kind of interesting, if you drop then down into this sort of solid category, that's a Bryson DeChambeau, Tony Finau, who ended up so much higher in the FedEx Cup point. I'm surprised that his consistency numbers are here, but he is a solid player from that 70 to 79. Not elite. I figured he was up in the elite category, but he is not. We've got Adam Scott, Louis Oosthuizen, Kevin Na, who's jumped up a little bit, Jim Furyk, and then down here in the good category, not that it really matters, but you've got like Phil Mickelson down in there, Ryan Palmer, who's had a win, but Ryan Palmer has missed 5 cuts, which is, and then down at the very bottom here, you've got like Adam Long, who, beat Phil out. He has been in 19 tournaments and has missed 12 cuts. 37% consistency. But he won, so his FedEx numbers are quite high. But he is in 50th place in the FedEx Cup, and he is in 50th place here. He is not even playing up to his career numbers, which is amazing. 37%, anyway. So I thought that was super interesting. Consistency is such a big part of the game of golf. I went out last night with my kids, and that's kind of probably where this started. Is I was kind of wondering how my performance with my kids, I haven't been playing a lot after the injury, got a whole lot of stuff going on at work. I used to play every day, at least once a day, usually twice. I don't play that much. I play hardly at all anymore, but I used to play a lot more. And but getting out there and being with the kids was awesome. But being out there and trying to play without a lot of on-course time was super interesting. And I could definitely, I noticed a difference. It felt odd, right? When you go out for the first time each year, it feels a little weird. But it took just a couple holes to get back into it and feel really confident and really strong. I have been doing a lot of my indoor exercises. And before I went over to the course, I slapped on the swing bite, which I have right here, and checked out my swing plane and made sure that everything was cool and ready to go. And I guess I could go big again. We'll just go big here. So, but it was good to get out on the course and play with the kids and have a lot of fun. And hopefully you'll get to do that as well. Consistency we can see on the PGA Tour is something that makes a huge difference in their careers. Anybody who has reach this elite status over the course of their career has also, that puts them right in the category where the chances are very good they'll make the Hall of Fame. So consistency is that important. They just put themselves in a position to win more often when they make the cut, obviously. And when you make the cut and have the opportunity to get to the weekend and win, that's obviously very good for your career. So as far as our consistency numbers go, I, again, remind everybody of the benchmarks that we have published a lot of different places. Make sure that you are tracking your game and working on those areas that are not as consistent as the other areas. Always work on the parts of your game that's the weakest. If you're hitting your driver great, don't bomb 50 drivers at the driving range with your limited time. Make sure that you take the time to work on the part of the game that's going to fill that weakness and make your game more consistent. Consistency is what makes it happen in golf. And when we can't play as often as we want to, and when we don't have the time to practice like we should, making sure that we use that time to practice on the things that are weakest helps a ton. I know for me, after being out and playing yesterday, I need to spend some time chipping. Putting was solid. Full iron shots were solid. Off the tee, I actually topped one off the first, which to the delight of my children. But played pretty well after that and got in with a very respectable score for the day, and I was quite happy with it. But anyway, work on your consistency. Stay consistent. It makes a huge difference on the PGA Tour. It'll make a huge difference in your game as well. Work on those parts of your game and get them to those benchmark levels that we always talk about on Mondays to make sure that your game is in its best possible shape for the times when you are able to get out and play with your kids and your family. So hopefully that's helpful. I will keep this. I'm going to keep updating this. It'll be fun as we get to the end of the year and see how it goes. Until next time, remember, better data always means better golf, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.